Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one! Another one!
Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Worked out by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Friday into the week. Hope your week was a good one. Ready for the weekend. It was a good one for Indiana basketball last night. That's certainly the case. As they get the Big Ten record back to 500 with a big win over number 13 Ohio State. That looked pretty impressive. Well, it was impressive from one standpoint. Trace Jackson Davis. Holy cow. The man went berserk. What do you have? 27 points. He almost outscored the entire rest of the team, which at one point he equaled them in field goals. Trace Jackson ended the night 11 of 17. At one time, he was 10 of 16, and the rest of the team was 10 of 40. Actually, they end up the night. He ends up 11 for 17, and the rest of the team ends up, 15 for the rest of the shots that are on the line. But Indiana ended the night on a 15-3 run. They seem to have an answer for everything that Ohio State put up. More importantly, E.J. Liddell. Defensively, what a night Indiana had. They held the big man to 11 points, but that was on 3 of 12 shooting. 4 of those points coming at the free throw line. So an excellent job on the number 13 Buckeyes. Indiana gets that marquee win, so to speak. Yep, Trey Galloway. That's a name. I'll be honest with you. I didn't see it last year. He didn't do much for me. The running around, man, oh man, the spark that he provided last night was as evident as it could be. He did hit the stats board, and it wasn't just on the stats board. What did he end up with? I think 8 points on the night. Yeah, 8 points on 3 of 5 shooting, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, only 1 foul. That's in 19 minutes of play. But it was the spark that he provided. And John, one of the quotes that we're going to need to hear from Coach Woody is the second to last question. I asked him about the play of Trey Galloway, but more importantly is some of his own players. Is that something that they need to see? We'll hear from him later. We'll hear from Trey Galloway, Trace Jackson Davis, Alec Lasley will join us. Plenty to get to. How was your day going? Are you ready for the weekend? Hello, John. Hello, Sean. Hello, Ross, Sam, Doug, Michael, Forrest. Everybody jumping on the line early. Yeah, it's boy, wins sure will make you happy. Defensively, Indiana held Ohio State to one of their last 7, and it was probably even better than that. But the defensive effort didn't let up. That was not just the defensive effort offensively, but 27 points for Trace Jackson Davis on 11-17 shooting, 5 of 6 at the free throw line. Race Thompson was 3 of 7 from the field, but 5 of 5 from the free throw line. Michael Durr, 1 of 1 from the field, but 2 of 2 at the free throw line. Trey Galloway, 3 of 5 from the field, but 2 of 2 at the free throw line. As a team, Indiana shot 83% at the free throw line. All those things are of great importance now that you're in Big Ten play. You're playing somebody every day. If you don't believe me, go back and look at that Penn State game. You think Penn State's not going to be shouting about that game from the rooftop for the rest of the season? Absolutely they will. It's going to be one of their best wins, if not their best win all year. After the game, I asked Mike Woodson, everyone was talking about Trey Galloway and the spark he added. And like I said, I'll be honest with you. I've seen him run around a lot, but I hadn't seen him do much up until him getting to come back and play this time. But it was palpable last night. But I asked Mike if some of his other team members need to see this. Let's hear what he had to say.
Well, again, I mean, I'm gonna play guys that play hard. That's how you build a winning team. And if I see that you're not giving me that, you got to come sit next to me. It's just that simple. You would think some of the young guys after watching, Gallo being out that long, man, I mean, and coming back and producing like he did, that's got to be encouraging for these guys to pick it up some too. But it was a total team effort. I thought race was great tonight. I mean, we were good across the board, everybody that played.
Absolutely. Yeah, that should send a message, all right. The guy's been sitting out because he's had a broken wrist, comes right back, gets back into the lineup, and produces. That tells me you better get off your keister and start producing. You want to play? Produce. It's simple. You want to lose weight? Take in less calories, burn off more. It's simple. There are some simple things in life. These are one of them. Mike Woodson said, if you're not going to play like he needs you to play, you're going to come have a seat next to him and have a little talk. And I think that you could see last night the potential this team has. They knocked off the number 13 team last night that was undefeated in the Big Ten. And they did it with, I don't want to say with ease, but and then they did it in a game in which Xavier Johnson hit 1 of 7, in which Miller Kopp was 2 of 6. Race Thompson was just 3 of 7. Parker Stewart was just 2 of 8. Rob Finnessy was 1 of 6. Michael Durr was 1 of 1. Geronimo was 1 of 2. Galloway 3 of 5. And Tamar Bates missed both of his free throw or shot attempts. As a team, Indiana only shot 41%. Again, Trace Jackson Davis was 11 of 17 of that. He hit 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The entire team hit 14 shots. Trace Jackson Davis hit 11. He almost outscored the entire team. An incredible night. And he put them on their back. And Ohio State couldn't stop them. Now, don't think the teams are not going to watch that and try to figure out ways to make adjustments there. They are going to be. Indiana cannot rely on Trace Jackson Davis alone each night. You're not going to be able to have this every night and have Xavier Johnson go 1 of 7 and Rob Finney 1 of 6, etc. Guard's going to have to hit some shots. It must be time for a break, I think. No? We're going to hear from Trace Jackson Davis and Trey Galloway today as well. Trey Galloway, I got to be honest with you, I'm more than shocked. Not only the fact that he had such an impact right out of the gate coming back, but was in so many different ways. I mean, I think he had an impact. He has to have an impact on the other players. If you are not watching him, if you're sitting on that bench and not seeing that and not thinking, I better elevate my game, then your head's up a tunnel somewhere. Yeah, Michael, great. After averaging, Indiana had averaged nearly 15 turnovers, I believe, over their last few games. 9 total last night. That is part of how you're going to live, not turning the ball over. And they did an excellent job of that last night. Indiana leads the Big Ten in scoring defense at 60.9 and field goal percentage defense 35.1, which ranks second in the nation. Indiana also leads the Big Ten, allowing only 57 points in 4 league games. They're the new Wisconsin. Indiana is the new Wisconsin. God, can you imagine if they had that win? Actually, to be honest with you, they should be 4-0 in the Big, but it is what it is. Yeah, after averaging nearly 15 turnovers for most of the season per game, IU has a combined 15 turnovers in their last 2 games. All of great importance now that you're in Big Ten play. But the sheer fact that they can do that in Big Ten play, that's going to make a gigantic difference. Yeah, that would have been a foul call any other time. I didn't really see that until I watched the game again. Sam talking about a brutal non-call foul on Galloway at the end of the game. Coaches got to get in the ear on the refs about that. Yeah, it's just a basketball play of sorts, I guess. But, yeah, it could have been bad. He went down kind of hard. Renata says at one point she thought that he was all up in the refs' ears at one point. IU held the Buckeyes to the 5th lowest points per possession in last 12 years. For the Buckeyes or for Indiana? Ross points out it's only 1 game, but that moved Indiana basketball up 15 spots in the net. Yeah, you can move quickly in that thing, man. You can move quickly up or down. But you could just certainly see a lot of different life with that team last night. Parker Stewart played harder last night. Not sure I would say smarter. He went hunting for shots, absolutely. and got more physical. He got to the rim. He tried to get to the rim, which I had not seen him do. Do you know he's not taking a single free throw in Big Ten play? Still hasn't, just out of curiosity. Yes, I agree. But I think that a big part of that was due to Trey Galloway. I mean, I hate to keep banging that bell, but and I was one that didn't think that. But it is what it is. Hey, Alec Lasley is going to join us. We're going to talk about recruiting. A lot of action going on this weekend. A lot of RU targets in action as well. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com will join us. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our great friends at Southern Stone Restaurant, home of Inside Indiana Basketball. Each Monday night at 7:05 with Don Fisher and Mike Woodson. Located at the corner of Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington, Indiana. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration.
Good morning,
hello,
sir.
Hello. How's it going?
It is going.
Yeah, I didn't know that those weren't up there last night.
No, you're good. I know, obviously, the
but I also know how to quickly to load them myself
to the YouTube page.
Yep.
Yeah,
right off my phone.
Yeah, that's what Keegan always does. So it's super easy. By the time the presser is done, it's basically fully uploaded.
Yep.
Big Keegs. Hey, Jim, you know yesterday, or not yesterday, I don't know when it happened, but the show was yesterday. We got a copyright claim during the Best of the Old School Sports Rants segment.
I did see that.
I was worried about that, but I was a little...
Does that mean you have to go back and take
it unmonetizes itself. It just unmonetizes itself. I'm glad I didn't clip that yesterday because I was thinking about clipping that segment. I'm glad I didn't do that.
Practice.
Yeah, and that's the one too that got copyrighted claimed because it was some sort of NBA site or whatever.
What is today?
Oh, the 7th.
My dad's birthday.
Oh, look at that.
Excuse me. Papa Coyle. One of my family members wanted me to ask you, and I know the answer is no, but it just made me
no.
You're related to Coyle Chevrolet.
No.
I knew you weren't. I was like, he'd be sponsored by them if he was, instead of Andy Moore Honda.
Sounds like he's had that question a few too many times, though, considering he knew exactly what you were going to say before you even said it.
Did you know that was going to be Coyle Chevrolet specifically is where I was going with that?
Yes.
All right, here we go. 20 seconds.
Go to thehoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also catch Indiana Sports Beat Radio there each day at your convenience, or you can find it any place you podcast or on this station each weekday. If we're not on the station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Friday. Hope you're ready for the weekend, and we're going to get you headed that way. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com joins us now. First of all, Indiana had a big night last night, obviously, getting I hate to call it a signature win, but it's certainly Mike Woodson's first signature win, I guess you'd say, of his tenure for Indiana. A great Big Ten win over the 13th ranked Ohio State Buckeyes, and not just the win, it's how they achieved it. Of course, Trace Jackson Davis, it was on his back, but they did it in a way with the rest of the team kind of lending a hand, but not doing a whole lot statistically.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, right? He had 16 of the 33 first half points, and the rest of the team was 6 of 21 in that first half. And I think that was, while everyone looked at that first 20 minutes as what a great 20 minutes of basketball it was, when you kind of look a little bit deeper, it was a little bit concerning that no one else really showed up for that half in the scoring column, which, we've seen at times Indiana really struggled to put together a full 40 games, and we didn't really know how Trace Jackson Davis was going to be able to kind of live up to that first half in the second half. So for them to put together that full 40 minutes, for Trace Jackson Davis to put together a full 40 minutes as well, and to get some help when he really needed it in that kind of middle part of the second half from a bunch of different guys in different ways, maybe not just in the scoring column, but defensively or grabbing an offensive rebound, or Parker Stewart hitting a timely three or anything like that. It really put together a really complete game for Indiana, one that they needed. Definitely the best game this season for Indiana, and one of the most complete games, I would say, over the last few seasons, from an offensive standpoint, from a defensive standpoint, from an energy standpoint, right? I mean, you maybe take out the first 5 minutes of the game from an energy standpoint, but 35 minutes of really, really high energy. And the fans obviously showed out for that too. So we just kind of look forward to the next, few home games here where the students are going to be back in full force. And, the attention just kind of turns to Indiana being able to win on the road at this point, because they've proven that they're a very difficult team to beat at home.
Yeah. So not only that, it seemed, while statistically the rest of the team didn't really kick in, they did in other ways. They didn't turn the ball over last night as a team. You had nine total turnovers, and after averaging 15 nearly a game, they've only had 15 total in their last 2 games. So that's a team effort right there, and that gets to everyone. So they weren't making a lot of mistakes, number one. Number two, I don't know if it was because of Trey Galloway's spark, and I'm kind of getting, I don't want to say tired of talking about it because everyone's talking about it, but it was palpable, but it led to other things. And I think it led to this team being able to be successful while stinking up statistically. They were able to do all the other things they needed to do to help win that game. And that's one of the things I saw Trey Galloway bring bigger than anything last night.
Yeah, and we've talked about this throughout the course of this season, since he's been out for what seems like the majority of the year up to this point, right? But the things that he does are not the things that he's going to get credit for realistically, right? He's not going to be one that's going to put up 10 points a game. He's not going to be one who's going to make always the flashy plays, but he's always going to bring the energy. We saw that last night when he came into the game, almost made an impact immediately. But he had 4 assists to 1 turnover. The ability that he has to get into the middle of the defense, to penetrate the defense, something that the other IU guards have kind of struggled with, at least to do consistently. But the ability that he has to do that under control, I think, is something that is very underrated, and something that we saw a lot last night. Just being able to make those key plays in the middle of that defense, whether it leads to an assist, whether it's a hockey assist, or whether it's just a smart play that doesn't turn the ball over. But he's someone who I've always said is going to get significant minutes when he's healthy, because he does all those little things that you need from a role player in order to win big games, and in order to make it deep in an NCAA tournament, or compete atop of a Power 5 conference. And that's one thing that I think a lot of people saw last night, just that spark that he brought, that the high IQ that he has, and the ability to defend multiple positions, get his hands in the passing lane, and generate some sort of offense in the fast break or the secondary break, which when Indiana has that, they're so much better of a team, because we heard Mike Woodson talk about earlier this week just the struggles they've had in the half court. So he just brings a whole new dimension of energy to that team that they definitely have been lacking since he went out.
Yeah, and like I said, I had seen him before, just running around the court, and that's kind of all I had saw him really doing, was just running around the court. Now there was a purpose, and it was like, wow. It was almost shocking to see the difference that he made. Just his presence out there, and that's a great positive for Indiana moving forward, because they needed something. This offense was just extraordinarily stagnant. There was very little to no movement with this offense. Now, all of a sudden, even guys like Parker Stewart seem to be moving, looking for shots. He got to the rim last night once. I don't know that I've seen him drive this Big Ten season. He has not shot a free throw yet, so hasn't been driving much. But just the impetus of getting that offense moving, I can't believe that's Trey Galloway is the impetus for that. But regardless, if it's just been practice or whatever, that offense was moving last night, and it made a tremendous difference.
Yeah, and one thing you brought up about Parker Stewart, that he made that layup early in the game there. That was only his fourth made 2-point field goal all season. He made one obviously against Penn State, but then you have to go back to Louisiana for that other two made 2-point field goals. So just to kind of show you the inability that Indiana's guards have had to kind of penetrate the defense. Obviously, Parker Stewart's never going to be that kind of guy, but just that energy and that spark, like we've been talking about, that Trey Galloway brings, and that different dimension that you don't have from those other Indiana guards. Rob Finney is a guy who has shown it in spurts over his entire career, right? The ability to get into the paint, but not always finish. Obviously, Xavier Johnson can get into the paint, but not always finish. And we've seen the kind of out of control plays that he's had at times as well. Trey Galloway can get into the paint. He's shown the ability to finish, but he's also shown the ability to make the smart play. Not always the flashy play, like we said, but the smart play. And that's what you need, especially if you have an All-American forward in Trace Jackson Davis and a very, very good supplemental player in Race Thompson. Just get them touches, don't turn the ball over in the half-court setting, and be able to penetrate the defense in certain ways. And, obviously it showed last night, just that offensive firepower that Indiana does have from time to time.
And offensively, I don't want to turn this into the Trey Galloway show, but 3 of 5 did not push things, take too many shots. His ability to get to the rim last night was something that I did not see last year. I saw him running around a lot and kicking the ball back out, but he actually scored, went to the rim with the intent to score, and was successful in doing that last night. He's grown up a little bit, you can see.
Yeah, and I mean, he plays with a sense of urgency, and that's something that I don't think you get a lot, especially with the younger players. But maybe it does help that he is a coach's son. He just knows how to play the game. He knows when to push the pace. He knows when to slow it down. He knows when to attack. He knows when to pull it out. And again, that's what we've been saying. That's the one thing that Indiana was truly missing from that backcourt, but just more importantly from those perimeter players. But the bigger issue that I have is when you look at Indiana's shooting last night, obviously their worst 3-point shooting performance of the season, just 2 of 15. And you look at what they've done this season. Miller Kopp's not really found his role yet. He's not very consistent so far up, through 13 games here. Xavier Johnson and Rob Finney are never going to be guys who you expect to make threes. Tamar Bates has really fallen off over the last 4 or 5 games here. A guy who was making 1 to 2 threes a game in the first half of the season. And I think the big issue moving forward is Indiana going to be able to sustain that early 3-point shooting power that they had? Because if Parker Stewart has an off night, and we've seen him have some off nights recently, where are they going to get that 3-point shooting from? You may get it Jordan Geronimo hit a 3 last night, but you don't expect him to make that. Obviously, Trey Galloway's not that kind of guy. So I think as good as this performance was, I don't think everyone's going to expect Trey Galloway to bring that spark every single game, and he shouldn't be expected to, right? He's a second-year player, and this team should be able to get up for Big Ten games consistently, and you shouldn't need a player returning after a 10-game absence to bring that spark. So if Indiana can't find a way to make shots consistently from the outside, it's not going to matter what kind of spark they have. They're not going to be able to win games like this if they shoot that poorly every single game.
I agree. But I do think that Trey Galloway will bring that spark. I think that's him. I think part of it is growing up being a coach's son. He had to bring it every game because he was the coach's son. And he seems like that type of kid that, well, I can't do this because I'm the coach's son. So now I've got to bust my ass a little bit harder to show that I'm not being played favorites. I think that he will bring that every time. I truly do. I think that's going to be part of who Trey Galloway is on and off the floor every time. I think that you're going to see that every time out there. I really do.
I don't disagree with that. I feel like it's a bit concerning, though, if you have to look to your 7th or 8th guy on the bench to bring that spark. So, maybe you look at adjusting the lineup, right? Miller Kopp hasn't shown that ability to be consistent as of yet.
But do you? But how much do you lose when you bringing Trey Galloway off the bench? Is a great thing for Mike Woodson to have, and to lose that and to in turn say bring Miller Kopp off the bench, man, you're losing a lot.
Well, I agree, but in the grand scheme of things, right? Indiana's had some really, really slow starts, especially on the road. And in the Big Ten, you can't get off to a slow start. And that's where you're going to have to bring your own energy. I don't see a lot of energy from that starting lineup unless Xavier Johnson or Trace Jackson Davis get off to a scorching hot start. They're obviously the more emotional leaders on that team. You don't get much from Parker Stewart or Miller Kopp emotionally. So you're going to need – that's something that obviously Mike Woodson knows what he's doing with his lineups. He knows what he's doing with his rotation. He did say earlier this week, though, that he needs to get back to finding a more consistent rotation. I think we're going to slowly be able to figure that out over the next few games. But, that starting lineup is something to not worry about. But, again, you are going to need to find ways to supplement Parker Stewart's shooting with someone in the second unit. Maybe that, again, is Miller Kopp. He has a great ability to move without the ball. You stagger some of those minutes where you still have him and Trey Galloway playing along each other and bring in a Rob Finney or anything like that, and have more driving and slashing playmakers instead of scoring playmakers on the floor to kind of open things up for Miller Kopp and kind of see what you can do with that. But obviously there's no question about it. You don't want to lose that spark off the bench, but at the same time, I think for Indiana to be able to reach their full potential, you need to find that second shooter, and you need to find a way to kind of wake Miller Kopp out of this whatever slump he's in right now, because he does not bring a lot to the floor unless he's making shots right now. That's something that Mike Woodson really was pushing for him when he initially committed to Indiana, to be more of a playmaker, to use more of that versatility, whether it be defensively or rebounding the ball. We just haven't seen that. So I think Mike Woodson and Indiana need to do something just to figure out where Miller Kopp fits in that. If that is off the bench and brings a little spark, a scoring punch off the bench, that's great. But he's just not bringing anything to the floor consistently right now in that starting lineup.
No, and I agree. And that's something that they have to find, because but again, if you were to make that change and made that Trey Galloway, you want somebody coming in off that bench that's going to have that spark. Now, whether that's Jordan Geronimo, that's very possible because he offers that, not to the extent that Trey Galloway, but Miller Kopp has he's very, very experienced player, but he has just been searching for his place in this offense. And knowing that it runs through Trace Jackson Davis, I think that Trey Galloway does not have a problem at all of learning how to integrate himself into that offense with Trace Jackson Davis in it and acclimate himself to it, where Miller's having that problem. He just we saw him take a couple of shots late last night. He hit a couple of those shots, but that was late in the game to where he kind of exerted himself. It was the late minutes. So he does not know where to try to put his shot in up until then. And I think that's a partial problem, but maybe that's still just learning problems for this team as they continue to get better, and what's part of what will make this team better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the biggest thing with the difference between him and Parker Stewart is Parker Stewart hasn't really forced a lot this season. He's just kind of taken what's been given to him. He's taken a couple contested threes, but I think a guy who's shooting 45+%, you give him that bit of a green light. With Miller Kopp, obviously, like we said, he's not shooting that percentage from deep. He's not really being able to find a way to impact the game from shooting twos. And so he does seem to force threes a lot. And I think early in the game, he's trying to force the game to kind of give him some sort of rhythm, rather than just kind of playing the game and letting whatever happens happen. And I think that's the biggest thing with him. But I think in the whole grand scheme of things, you look at Tamar Bates, someone who we haven't really talked about as that spark off of the bench. If you do move Trey Galloway to the starting lineup, because he's a big energy guy as well, a guy who can get hot in a hurry and a guy who can provide that scoring punch. So I think there's still a lot of moving pieces with this Indiana roster, and that's what happens when you bring in so many new faces and a new coach and a new staff. So I think Indiana fans, though, have to be extremely happy with that performance last night and what it will show moving forward here in the Big Ten.
Absolutely. It was probably one of the best performances by an Indiana team in years, to be honest with you. A complete performance, even though it lacked some other things. It was a very, very, very good win. Hey, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, there's a lot of action going on this weekend, high school wise, a lot of targets of Indiana's that are in the state playing basketball, and we'll be talking about that. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by the good people at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. If you're looking for the deals, they've got them. $0 down, 0% APR financing. Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Sports on television.
Alec, can you regularly do two segments with us now that we have a different time? Or is this just
what time does the second segment
9:30.
Usually I have something at that time.
Okay.
No, we end at 9:30.
What?
It's 9:12 right now.
I said, yeah.
But I was curious when the second segment went to. I wasn't sure what time that ended up.
We'll be done by when?
You'll be by 27 if you want to be a few minutes early and get us, because Zach Osterman will be here at 9:30. And he's got to be out on time, maybe a few minutes early today because he kind of rambles sometimes, but he's got a doctor's appointment for his baby.
All right, what time does he come on? 9:30?
Yep. And then Jeffrey the Greek will finish us out.
Hopefully. What a great day.
I know. Hadn't had Greek on in a while.
What a great day.
Yeah, so if we can, I guess, 27, 28-ish, if that works.
Yeah. Do you have Toe and Tracy or something else?
I have something else in between. That's at 9:50.
Okay. Gotcha. So you're loaded up today.
Yeah, my afternoon's a little busy with some other things, so I have to kind of front load the morning. Jim, Kyler's all set with credentials for Saturday, by the way. I don't know if I told you that.
What is Saturday?
For the
Minnesota.
For the event. Yeah. In LaPorte.
No, the high
Is it
school
Minnesota
thing.
games? Oh, I thought you
Yeah.
meant the Minnesota game. Is that
No,
Saturday
the high,
too?
the high, yeah, the high school stuff.
Is Minnesota who they
Minnesota
play Sunday?
That's
Yeah.
Sunday. Excuse me.
Sunday at noon.
All right, I'm bringing us back in.
For a new Honda, Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington has the deals for you. How about a brand new 2021 or 2022 Honda Pilot? All the trims for 0% APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Or how about a brand new 2021 Honda Passport? Also 0% APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. It's Friday here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Remax. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore's 2 decades of experience. Could be the difference in you getting the home you want. Alec Lasley still with us. Big high school event going on up at La Lumiere this weekend is some big-time teams coming in playing with some IU targets. Alec?
Yeah, definitely. It's a newer NIBC kind of league that they put together for this season. So every, probably one weekend every month, every 5-6 weeks, a bunch of these teams get together and play in that 3-day event. You got Montverde there, IMG, La Lumiere, Oak Hill, but the bigger one who typically hasn't been in any of these events is Legacy Early College, that has 2023 Indiana target Cohen Carr. They played yesterday against La Lumiere, struggled. They don't have the firepower that a lot of these other big time national prep schools have, and it did not help that they did not really start their travel until 4 a.m. Yesterday to actually play that game. So they had a lot of issues going into that one, but Cohen Carr's a guy who I don't know if a lot of Indiana fans really know a lot about, a guy who plays in South Carolina. So he's not typically playing in these events around the Midwest. But he's a guy that Indiana fans need to know. A 6'7", super athletic hybrid forward, a guy who can really play and guard anything from 2 to 5, at least at the high school level here. A guy who's going to be more of that kind of 3 hybrid 4 type Jordan Geronimo position at the college level. But had a solid performance yesterday. 12 points, 4 rebounds, 3 blocks. A guy who is not going to put up a ton of great shooting numbers when it comes from the perimeter, much more of a slasher. But he showed that he was someone who could really hold his own against these extremely talented high major Power 5 players at La Lumiere. Someone who didn't really force a ton, even though the game was pretty much out of hand in the first 5 minutes. Still needs to be a little bit more under control when he goes to the basket, but he's a guy who Indiana's working on setting up a visit with. They went down, saw him a few weeks ago as well, and a guy who's been in constant contact with the Indiana staff ever since he was offered in the summer. Yuzir Rosemond, kind of the guy for that area for Indiana staff, and he's a player that is exactly what Indiana's going after, those athletic, long guys who can really guard and be extremely versatile on the perimeter. And he's a guy who I think will end up getting to Indiana for an official visit here sometime soon, and a guy who's going to be very interested in Indiana until he ultimately makes his decision. But I know we're looking forward to seeing a little bit more of him this weekend after they get some rest and get their legs under them after that first shocker. But outside of that, you have Jalen Hood-Schifino. Montverde lost again last night, which was a bit of a surprise. They got five-star point guard Sky Clark, who did have an offer from Indiana about a year ago before he ultimately committed to Kentucky. He was actually inserted back into the lineup after returning from his torn ACL this summer. So they have a lot of 5-stars, a lot of high-end 4-stars, a lot of high major players on that roster year after year. And when you have to insert someone new into the lineup, it obviously takes a little bit to get adjusted, but they'll be fine. They have guys like KJ Evans, who's a 2023 5-star as well, who holds an Indiana offer, and then a 2024 5-star big man who doesn't see the floor a whole lot because he's just a sophomore there, and Derek Queen, who also holds an Indiana offer. So a ton of Indiana guys up at this event, and a ton of Indiana guys who are continuing to put on good performances for the most part here in the kind of middle parts of the high school season.
And it's a rare opportunity that you get to see that many targets together in one spot. But it also shows the diversity of what the players that Indiana is looking for. Obviously, guard play is something that they have to improve on as they go forward. They're still touching virtually every position through the recruiting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the biggest one so far is they're not actively going after a ton of true big men in the class of 2023. There's a couple, those hybrid forwards, more versatile guys who like to stretch the floor a little bit. That's the one position that I think they obviously need to improve on here in the next two classes. But that's one that I think they're going to go through the transfer portal to get, especially in the Big Ten, where you need a guy who's physically there already and physically mature to play in the Big Ten, his first game in that conference. And there's not a lot of freshmen who have that body and that skill set who can play significant minutes from day one. So outside of those guards and those wings, I think you're going to see the transfer portal a lot for Indiana to go after true kind of power forwards and centers here. And, you go after the more versatile hybrid forwards like they are right now, and a couple of those guys like Cohen Carr and KJ Evans, through the class of 2023 and build their roster that way.
And it obviously probably did not get to hurt to have all those guys in state while Indiana was playing that game on ESPN last night against or Fox Sports 1, whomever it was on. I noticed the announcers were not in-house. Bill Raftery, they were not there, because I looked down and I'm like, oh, I noticed that there was people that I knew sitting at the TV table. So the TV announcers were not in-house last night for the game, I noticed.
Yeah, they're, with obviously a little bit more of that COVID uptick, I think a lot of the announcers are starting, at least during the week, to limit the travel as much as possible and get to games on the weekends where, a lot more people are going to be watching those games and a lot more eyes are going to be on the games. But yeah, they started to do that over the last few weeks with kind of limiting those midweek travel for announcers and keep those guys in studio, which, it is what it is, right? I think a lot of people were used to it last year, but obviously takes away some of that environment, especially at a big time game like it was last night.
These games that are going on up at La Lumiere, man, this goes on all day today. Tomorrow, does it go through Sunday?
Nope, it's just 3-day event. Saturday's the last day. Get these kids back. A lot of these kids aren't obviously back in school yet for winter break, so get them back in time to get back and ready to go for Monday. So it goes. I think the last game is 9:00 Eastern on Saturday, and that kind of wraps everything up.
Yeah, it starts every 2 hours. Starting at 3 p.m. on ESPN Plus, and every major. I mean, if you look at these academies, the Wasatch, the one that I had never even heard of from Utah until that kid from Indiana played football for them. They're in this. Sunrise Christian from Kansas, Montverde from Florida, Bishop Walsh from Maryland, Oak Hill, Virginia. You mentioned Lalu, you mentioned IMG, you mentioned, and Legacy Early College. Big time programs, man. And all right here.
Yeah, I mean, big time talent. It's great to, have an event like this at least once a year, right? There's a lot of great AAU events that come through the Midwest, the Indy area as well. But to get these high school programs out here for a huge event like it is this weekend is something that you don't get a lot. A lot of those events stay down in Florida, either on campus for IMG or Montverde down there, just because they have the facilities, they have all of the area to host all of these programs. So it's good to get them out of Florida, get them to the Midwest, which I'm sure they're not happy with in the middle of January. But it's definitely a great event to get a lot of really good eyes on a lot of really, really talented juniors and obviously sophomores who are still going throughout their recruiting process.
Man, I don't know if this is a question we can answer quickly, but what big man is Indiana looking at to replace Trace Jackson Davis? First of all, you don't just replace Trace Jackson Davis, but yeah, that's going to be a gigantic hole for Indiana, especially the way he is continuing to play.
Yeah, and like I said, that's one where you go to the transfer portal for, right? You have a great, great ability to bring in a high impact player right away. Obviously, one who's probably not going to be an All-American. You rarely ever see an All-American enter the transfer portal there, but so you're never going to actually replace that production. But you're going to get a guy who can come right in and see significant minutes and play at a high level. And you're just not going to get that more oftentimes than not from a true freshman here making the jump from high school to college. So that's why when you look at the guards, when you look at the wings, especially depending where you play, what program you play and what conference you play, it's, I don't want to say an easier transition, but it's an easier transition to the college level. For the Big Ten, for big men, not as easy just due to the physical style of play and tending to see a lot of those big men and those true back to the basket guys be upperclassmen. And you never want to have a 21, 22-year-old going against a 17, 18-year-old if you're on the poor side of that. So that's why you always need to transition and get these older guys in to the Big Ten, because they just have that physical body and physical frame ready to compete from the opening tip there day one.
Man, if you get to go up or if you have the opportunity to go up to that LaPorte Invitational too, you'll get to see it I'm turning my head sideways because I'm looking at the picture. I don't know why, but they put it sideways. The LaPorte Civic Auditorium. It's one of those good old-fashioned looking buildings that they were playing basketball in back in the 40s, you can tell. So I bet that's a treat in and of itself. But, man, some quality basketball if you have the chance to go up there. I know that the Hoosier.com will be there reporting with live reports, correct?
Yep, we'll be there for Saturday. When taking a look at, obviously, Cohen Carr, Jalen Hood-Schifino, and KJ Evans and Derek Queen. Those are back-to-back games. So we'll get to see some extended looks at them, much like we have over the past few events that they've been at as well.
Looking forward to it, man. And then Indiana back at it on Sunday as they welcome in Minnesota, who has been a lot of a surprise in this year's basketball season.
Yep, definitely. I mean, it's a game that Indiana, again, I would say needs to have. They typically over the last few seasons have not been able to build on any sort of big win within following that up with another win. So to put together two, resume building wins, one signature win against Ohio State and then one against a tournament team as of now, that's a good way to kind of enter 2022 and make up for that poor and kind of lackluster loss against Penn State. So big one on Sunday that Indiana needs to have if they want to continue to push their way up to compete at the top of the Big Ten.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com joining us here. Appreciate you, brother. We'll talk to you again.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
You betcha. Brought to you by Remax Realty. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience could be the difference between you getting the home you want and not. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat. Do we need to take a break yet, John?
Yes.
All right. Right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
If you're in the market.
Were you getting your times mixed up? It's 9:30.
just
We're about to be 9:30.
yeah. So Zach is up next.
And I know, like I said, I know he rambles, but try to finish him up early today if you can. He
needs to be
will
up
probably finish
by
himself up early if he knows he's got to be up.
9:50.
9:50.
Yeah. So 47.
Yeah, 47 would be good.
Yeah, 47. Need to get you some merchandise, man, so you can wear it into the station.
I'm sure they'd love that.
They providing you any merch?
No, but it's iHeart. What would they provide? A little sticker?
iHeart.
I've never seen anybody wearing iHeart merch in our building, but probably for the better. Let Zach know he's good to join whenever he's ready. Now I've seen people with individual like station stuff on, but I've never seen
That's
anyone
what I
like
mean.
iHeart stuff.
That's not same thing. Show. I mean, stuff with the show's name on it.
I'm sure Terry's worn 840 WHAS stuff several times.
Oh, yeah.
Morning, Zach.
Hey.
Hey, Zach, how are you, man?
Good, you?
Cannot complain.
Thanks for taking time this morning, even though you've got other things going on.
Oh, no worries.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
it's actually kind of quiet just because I'm on vacation or I'm on leave. So
Here we go. 5 seconds.
Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sillersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you on this Friday. Good way to end the week. I'll get off to the weekend. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joining us. Zach, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How about you?
I cannot complain. It's certainly a good way for Indiana to end the week with a much-needed Big Ten win last night. But more importantly, how they looked in playing that game. Although it was Trace Jackson-Davis dominated, they still were able to do the things they needed to do as a team to get a very solid win.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple threads, and I'll, anybody who's seen my social channels will know that I'm on parental leave right now. We had a baby about a week ago. So I've been watching, I saw most of the Penn State game. I saw a lot of this game, but was kind of dealing with putting my other son down for bed right around the time that Indiana basically kind of cranked it up in the second half. I guess that was about 10, 12 minutes left in the game. But I thought there were a few things that stood out. First of all, only 9 turnovers. I think that is always going to be a money number for Indiana. We've talked about this before, but so many of the other offensive numbers along the baseline are very solid for Indiana. They're not all great. They're not necessarily all elite, but they're solid. Like they're above average or better. And the one number that can undercut all of that really is the turnover number. And when you keep those turnovers down the way Indiana did last night, and you don't throw away, cheap, easy possessions, you give yourself the opportunity to make some mistakes. You give yourself the opportunity to shoot 2 of 15 from behind the 3-point line because you're not wasting possessions elsewhere that make those threes so much more valuable. You obviously talked about Trace Jackson-Davis. I thought last night was, the kind of game that goes at the front of the scouting video, that goes straight into the highlights package for any NBA team, analyzing him at both ends of the floor, 5 offensive rebounds, 7 defensive rebounds, obviously 27 points. And it also because we've seen him sometimes score a lot of points in games where he makes like 11 or 12 free throws. He only made 5 last night. So 22 of his points are floor points. And that just speaks to, just how dominant he was against a team that should have had, in theory anyway, the matchups to kind of throw at him and make things difficult for him. Obviously, E.J. Liddell, 11 points on 12 shots. You're going to feel good about that performance regardless of the outcome of your game. And I think more broadly, just the way Indiana defended. We watched this team defend really, really well in November and December. And we said, how's it going to hold up once conference play rolls around? Because we'd seen that from Indiana teams in the last 2 or 3 years where, when they could, sort of cruise through the guarantee games and spend all their time really focusing on, the one non-conference opponent they were going to play every 10 days or whatever, they were really good defensively. But then it didn't last once they got into the grind of Big Ten play and teams started to see film on them. They started to play teams that really knew their tendencies and their personnel. I wondered anyway, maybe others didn't, but I thought this team was better defensively, but I wondered how much better. And, it's still only January 7th, but not only are they a top 10 team nationally in adjusted efficiency, according to Ken Palm, at the moment in Big Ten play alone, they have the best adjusted defensive efficiency in the conference. And I tweeted this last night. It's really easy to say, well, it's early, and it is to some extent, but Indiana's played 20% of its Big Ten schedule now. I find myself saying that around this time of year, like, the season goes faster than you realize. Indiana has already played fully 1/5 of its Big Ten schedule, and this is what they've done. They've gone to Wisconsin, which has been a place where we've seen them get absolutely, blown out in recent years. They played a very good Ohio State team, held them to 51 points. Ohio State team that beat Duke, I think there's a lot.
Actually, an Ohio State team that's one of the most efficient. And offensively, they're one of the more efficient teams, maybe one of the most efficient teams that Indiana has played, I think, offensively.
If you said before tip-off last night that Indiana was going to finish minus 16 in points off 3-pointers, you would not have thought Indiana was going to win that game. You would have been hard-pressed to find somebody who would say, yeah, Indiana's going to win that game. And that is – I think that's as reflective of it as anything that, you can even, and they're 8 of 27. So let's not make out that Ohio State just was bombs away from 3. They weren't elite, but they made 8 threes. Indiana only made 2, and Indiana won by 16. That tells you how good the defensive effort was elsewhere. I think they forced, something like 15 turnovers. Nobody scored more than 13 points. Again, EJ, that is a fantastic performance on EJ Liddell. 11 points on 12 shots. And he gets 9 rebounds. He's still a good player. That's going to happen. But this is a guy who had 28 against Wisconsin. He had 28 against Seton Hall. I'm just looking at his numbers now. He had 23 against Florida. To hold him to 11, that was the second lowest scoring total. Actually, ironically, behind the game that Ohio State won over the weekend at Nebraska, when he only scored 10. So I don't know. Maybe he's got something going on health-wise we don't know about. But one way or the other, to just be so commanding in so many aspects of that box score defensively, it tells you where this team is right now, and it gives you something if you're Indiana that you can hold on to. We've talked so much about things like toughness and and grit and, does this team have the intangibles? Well, those things can, all that stuff is interrelated. That stuff can come from confidence. And, it's a lot easier to find that toughness if you believe in your ability to make a big basket in the last 3 minutes of a game. It's also a lot easier to find that toughness if you believe in the idea that if you knuckle down, you slap the floor, you come together, you're not going to get scored on. And that's kind of where Indiana's going right now. And when you're going there with an All-American big man, a veteran lineup, a couple proven shot makers, I'm not saying they're going to win the Big Ten by any means, but that just raises the floor again for a program that is obviously desperate to sort of have that happen, frankly.
Well, and Mike Woodson talked about the fact that everything was going to be based defensively from the very start, that they were ahead of themselves defensively. And now we're seeing that, but to a positive effect. Defensively, it is really carrying the day because the numbers you mentioned earlier, Indiana has become the new Wisconsin. I think through 4 Big Ten games, they're allowing 57 points or something like that, which is crazy. But if they can continue doing that and continue scoring, they're going to be a contender in the upper half of the league.
There's a number I saw last night. I was just combing through some of the more kind of, I guess, advanced data. And if you talk about unadjusted numbers, just raw numbers, Indiana's half-court points per possession right now allowed is 0.76, which is obviously excellent. But the number that jumped out to me is their transition points per possession allowed is 0.798, which is just frankly outstanding. Like you should be giving up points in transition. Transition opportunities are
it's a gimme.
Yeah, those are the ones you have to avoid because they're so easy. That's why coaches call turnovers, that lead to those transition points, touchdown turnovers and things like that. And to be so stingy, even in transition, even when a team breaks on you, there's a connectedness that I think everybody's showing. And there is a level of, because some of that, there's a level of investment too, because some of that is just, are you willing to run back? And not run, but really run. When you think about what we've heard Mike Woodson say about young players think they're playing hard. They don't understand that there's a whole level that, we know they can go to that they don't know they can go to. You can think you're playing hard, you can think you're running back, but if suddenly you find another gear and you're getting back even faster and in an even more committed way, whatever you want to say, then it's forgive me. I think the young one's chiming in outside the door, but
that's beautiful music.
That is it. That speaks to both an investment in what guys are being asked to do by the coaching staff, and also in their connectedness to one another, especially in transition, because you've got to communicate. If you're going to break up good transition offense, you got to be communicating, you got to be rotating. Everybody's got to be working hard, but also working together. And that transition number for me was a big one, just in terms of realizing just how good Indiana is here, basically almost halfway through their overall schedule. In fact, I guess they're one game shy of that now. But you also got to carry that on. I think the next step for this team is that consistency, because how many times in the last 2-3 years could we say that Indiana was, had a really good performance or a couple really good performances, but then that was followed by a couple really bad ones? You've got to follow that up now. If you're Indiana, you've got to look at Sunday against Minnesota and say, if we can beat Ohio State by 16 at home, we shouldn't have any trouble with Minnesota.
Yeah, there are many times where I've seen a team have a Trace Jackson Davis who goes off and has a big number stat line wise, and the rest of the team doesn't do anything, and they don't come close to winning a game. Whereas in Indiana's case, they did exactly that, and it wasn't really close. They started dominating that game mainly because of the defensive end and the turnovers, the lack thereof. As someone pointed out, that of the 9 turnovers, only one of them was by a guard. And that was Xavier Johnson's 1 turnover. So another positive for this Indiana offense.
Yeah, and again, those are sort of, I think that when you talk about that in particular, you can live with some of the turnovers that happen, like with the Trace Jackson Davis. He gets double teamed. He tries to spin out of it. it gets slapped away from him. Maybe it could be a foul. Maybe it's not. Those turnovers rarely lead to genuine fast break opportunities. To your point about turnovers by guards, those are the ones that lead directly to big fast breaks. When you're giving it away at half court, when you're trying to swing it around the perimeter and somebody jumps a passing lane, well, they grab that ball, they're off. Whereas you turn it over because you just kind of get caught in the traffic inside. You don't want to turn it over, but you can live with that more because that probably, if your backcourt guys are committed to getting back when they see they've lost possession, and you're not worried about getting broken on kind of over, with some pass over the top kind of thing, those kinds of turnovers don't tend to lead to, again, that phrase coaches sometimes use, that touchdown turnover. It's the ones that, to your point about guard turnovers, it's the ones where the ball's moving, kind of around the perimeter. Suddenly somebody picks it off and now it's one-on-one or one-on-none. And that's when it becomes a bit more of a problem. It is interesting to me, like, as an example, Xavier Johnson's turnover rate right now is 21.7%. His turnover rate in conference play is only 13.3%. You go to Rob Finnessy, his turnover rate overall right now is 21.5%, but his conference-only turnover rate is 15%. And so there is a suggestion, I guess, basically that the guys whose turnovers would be most costly are getting better at not committing them. And so, that should bring the overall number down. And it also brings down the number of those turnovers that really hurt you. The ones that just are 2 or 3 point swings, like right away. And again, this stuff all has to, we always say this, but it's important to just kind of keep, this stuff has to continue on. We can't just be talking about it on January 7th and then by February 7th, it's gone. But, if you're an Indiana fan, you're looking at this team and you're saying, well, they've got a couple nice wins. They don't have any bad losses, but there's a couple there that they probably wish that, like the Penn State game Sunday, if you could have even just found a way to win 2 of the 3 that you've lost, you'd be right in the thick of it, near the top of the Big Ten where everybody's already lost a game. You'd have road wins. You'd have quality wins. I mean, like if Indiana had beaten like Penn State and Wisconsin, we'd probably be talking about like a 5 seed in some of these NCAA tournament projections. So like if you're an Indiana fan, you've also seen the bottom fall out, a couple times in the last 3 years. So I don't blame anybody for still being skeptical or still being sort of pragmatic about it. But you're trying to figure out which way this is really kind of turning. And nights like last night, to me, suggest it's not full speed ahead, but it is headed in the right direction.
Absolutely. Again, I want to get you out of here, but before I do, I my head was someplace else, so I did not know that you had just had a new baby. Is it a new baby boy?
It's a new baby boy. Eamon is his name.
Man, congratulations to you and to mom. Number 2, I know that keeps you very, very busy. But, man, it is nothing like it, and we appreciate you so much. Like I said, I didn't know, so congratulations. I was wondering where you were last night. So congratulations to you and Mom, man. That is awesome.
No, thank you. Yeah, I think I won't be around for a little while here, to be honest, but just a couple more weeks. But no, it has been. It's fun. They always say, people tell you 2 is harder. I think some ways it's harder. I think, some ways, when you had the first one, you had no frame of reference for what the heck you were doing. Whereas once you have the second one, suddenly there's some things that kind of come back to you and are a little bit more second nature. So just figuring it out day by day. That's pretty much where we're at.
Well, congratulations, man. Go enjoy every second of it. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Jim. Good to see you.
Thank you. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star and new Papa here on Indiana Sports Beat. We got lots more coming up, and we'll be back with Jeffrey the Greek here right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
Whether it's a celebration.
I just downed all the coffee that I had in my cup during that segment, and that was a huge mistake because I cannot sit still.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We got to talk about that quarterback.
Oh yeah, Connor Bazelak. How do we forget about that?
Because it's football.
Well, I was talking with somebody last night about it. That's why I'm surprised I forgot about it.
Because it's football.
Speaking of football,
so
Mr. Greek,
how we doing, guys? Happy New Year!
Look at him, dressed in black, back in black. He's back in black.
It's the song Iowa walks out to, so we can play that anytime you want.
Is it?
Yeah,
dude. That is probably. I was thinking the other day, maybe my favorite album of all time because I know every word to every song on that stupid album.
How old are you?
That old?
Well, my brother's 52, so he's gone to probably 7 or 8 AC/DC shows.
I only saw him once. Thank goodness it was all of them too. It wasn't. Obviously, it wasn't
the original.
Yeah. What's his name? But everyone except for that.
Yeah. It was funny. There was just a random somebody posted what's the best AC/DC song just last night on Twitter. I'm like, man, it's tough to choose.
There's no such thing, man.
It's hard.
I mean, Back in Black is
Back in Black. I love TNT. I love TNT.
Hell's Bells. I'm like,
they all run the same to me. They all sound the same to me. But I like AC/DC.
It's funny, John. I said that same thing. I'm like, they literally had one lane, and that's but boy, they played that lane well.
Well, they
and Nickelback does the same thing, but they get
flack for it. Stop! Don't you ever compare Nickelback to AC/DC.
They are very similar.
You know what, guys?
Bull crap.
Hey, Jim, it's been fun, but if you got a guy producing a show with takes like that, I don't know if I can do this anymore.
You're out.
Jesus. It's a generational gap, is what we have right here.
It's
we have a quality in music gap, is what we have.
Yeah, I didn't say that Nickelback was the best band in the world. I'm comparing them to AC/DC. That's all I'm doing.
Which is like
which is blasphemous.
My God,
Jesus! All right, we're back in 20 seconds. By the way, I can't play but AC/DC coming back, or else we'll get another copyright claim. So just FYI.
Yeah, those get
also 0% APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Oh, welcome back. Oh, man, John, the producer, is just getting slashed and gashed while we were in the break.
I've got to step on Sean real quick. Don't sit there and say all validity lost when you can't spell the band properly.
Okay.
Sean, do you follow me on Twitter? I want you as a follow. You're a smart dude.
Yes. He's
spell the band correctly, and I'll take your claim. That's fine.
They're not worth spelling it correctly. John, the producer, compared Nickelback to AC/DC, first of all, and the fact that he's still here is beyond me.
Man, this is the worst I've ever gotten hit in the chat before. Look at this.
Oh, that's because
are you starting to get clued in on? Yeah, you're starting to get clued in on how bad that take was, John.
I'll take it. It's fine. I like Creed as well, which I'm sure also won't sit well with people. I like all the bands people hate, I guess, but it's fine.
He's getting slammed just one after the other. Oh, man.
Let me have it. It's all good.
You're just getting destroyed. I mean, just one after another.
Man. Yes, you are. This is the best feedback we've ever got.
Oh, how much whiskey in your cup, John? He says, OMG, John, how much whiskey is in that cup of coffee you just downed?
It is Friday.
I don't get why isn't there a world where you can collectively like AC/DC and Nickelback? Why can't you like both?
You can, but you can't compare them.
Oh, my goodness.
There's no compare. You can't compare those two. That's not.
Yes. Okay.
You've got an iconic band that has iconic albums. Back in Black is one of the greatest albums of all time. It's one of the biggest selling. It still sells. It's still being played on the radio nonstop. nonstop. It's still being played in football locker rooms around the country. I mean, man, that thing was blasting in my football. Damn right. Ain't nobody playing Nickelback in a football locker room.
Hey, believe it or not, several years ago when Kevin Wilson was the coach at Indiana still, they came out to Nickelback's version of Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting. If you
that
remember
explains that. That explains
there
that.
There you go.
Never got
and
over.
What happened to Kevin Wilson in Indiana football? People still wear ACD. I have an ACDC. I wish, boy, if I should have took off and ran and grabbed the my ACDC shirt while I was on break. You got that right. Oh, what a fun! Welcome in, man. What a welcome for Jeffrey the Greek as he steps into the ring, baby. That's like stepping into the octagon.
Oh man, that was a crazy way to start it. Anyways, happy Friday, guys.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Sad that Big Ten football season is over, but other than that,
Big Ten, I mean, the entire deal, the whole enchilada is about over, except for the SEC championship on Monday night.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, college football ended at
the
Rose Bowl.
Let's
talk some football. This is the last we get to talk about recently transpired football contests.
I got to tell you, Iowa disappointed me, man. I was Penn State disappointed. The Big Ten, I was like, come on. The Big Ten still ended up with a winning overall bowl record at 6-4. Could have really stretched it out. And because both of those games, that Iowa-Kentucky game, I thought that Iowa had that game won. And then, of course, the other game that I just was talking about that I've already forgotten.
Well,
man, that could have made an 8-2 mark in the bowls that would have been gigantic.
Right. I mean, the Penn State game, I don't think you can really say was close. I mean, Penn State was so depleted with guys on defense and Jahan Dotson being out on offense. The fact that they were just able to stick with Arkansas until deep into the third quarter is commendable to me. I mean, that was an uphill climb for Penn State right from the start. I mean, obviously I wish Iowa would have pulled it out. I felt like they ran the ball well. I felt like they stuffed Kentucky's running game for the most part. They did all the things except, quarterback in order to win a football game. But in the end, I mean,
except for win.
Yep. The Big Ten went 6-4. And let's be honest, Rutgers playing Wake Forest, that's probably one of the biggest mismatches in the history of Bulls. Like, you got to give Greg Schiano and the crew credit just for picking things up and flying down there to play that game. Like, that should be considered a loss for Texas A&M.
They had probably already turned their equipment in. I mean, I was surprised if they'd already turned their equipment in. Like, oh, guys, you got to come back.
I guarantee you there were fifth-year seniors that had done nothing but stuff their face and booze it up for a week or two before that game started. I maybe I'm speaking on experience for myself when I was done at Iowa, but to all of a sudden gear your brain to have to go down and play that game. Honestly, they hung with Wake Forest for 2.5 quarters or so. I think they should be, but so to me, it was closer to a 6-3. Big Ten record with a late score by Kentucky from being a 7-2 record. I think overall the Big Ten acquitted themselves really well, with obviously the biggest black mark being, Michigan hardly even showing up for the college football playoff game.
Yeah. Overall, what did you think of the bowl season?
Pretty entertaining. I am definitely not in the collection of people that thinks there's quote unquote too many bowls. If you shorten the bowls down by 3 or 4 bowls, I wouldn't scream about it. But I can guarantee you, you will never hear me for the rest of my days ever complaining about too much college football. I love college football. So, I mean, it seemed like there was an entertaining bowl game every other day, so that to me is Shangri-La.
Indiana quarterback Connor, I don't know, Basilak, from Missouri, someone that I'm assuming you're somewhat familiar with, but out there near Iowa. He's got 3 years of eligibility left. I mean, if you're not going to get a top 5-star, which Indiana's not, this is probably a pretty good get for them, especially at the timing that it came. I'm like, all right, that's not too bad. But especially a guy that has that much eligibility left. That could be a very, very good thing for Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, I think basically most quarterbacks, free agent college football quarterbacks, they pretty much fall into 2 categories. The rare, I don't want to say superstar, but definite starter that comes in that you think is going to be the team or the quarterback that leads your team for a year. Those are rare, but they're out there, right? I mean, we've seen it a lot of times. The rest of the quarterbacks are, at the very least, you're coming in to have another arm in the room to challenge the room to make everybody better. I think that's what we have here in Indiana's case. I think Hoosier fans should be happy about it when you understand, and I would put Iowa in the same category, you're not going to get one of the top 3 or 4, free agent quarterbacks. So after
you're not getting Bo Nix.
No. Well, you might get Bo Nix. I don't think Bo Nix is anything special.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I think Hoosier fans should be happy about it and feel a lot better that there is a quarterback that fits their system moving into 2022 better than there was just, a couple weeks ago.
And they still have to get, I think, a high school quarterback. In college, quarterback has become such a premium. Well, it has and it's not because of the portal. So I don't want to talk out of both sides of my mouth here, but if you're thinking of developing, well, you still need that high school kid. But Indiana, first of all, you've got Grant Gremmel, who was the only probably passing quarterback that had any success this year, and he was a walk-on, the kid that played last.
Yeah.
Not even mentioned on this list here, but you've got Donovan McCulley, of course, Dexter Williams, who was out with an ACL injury. You've got Jack Tuttle, but Jack Tuttle's been here for long enough, and to me, I don't know if you've had a long enough time, but part of that I want to blame on potentially Nick Sheridan. Whose fault was it that he didn't develop? He was a very, very high-ranked quarterback when he came here. Why is he not developing? So now that you have a new OC, new quarterbacks coach, it will be interesting to see the development of a Connor Bazelak or Jack Tuttle for that matter.
It's just I forget where I read the article, so I wish I could give credit, but the thought process towards college quarterbacks is as different now as maybe as it's ever been. Unfortunately, it's tougher for high school quarterbacks to get a look right now. There's a lot of high school quarterbacks that are going under recruited because of the transfer portal and because a lot of coaches, they feel like it's less of an unknown if they get a college quarterback, even if it's a college quarterback that's from lower levels, because they feel that they have better film on those quarterbacks to transfer in. So getting a young quarterback in and developing them, it's as hard as it's ever been. And I feel like we're already seeing some of the ramifications of that across college football, because I feel like there is this top of the level quarterback play and then a very small gray area in between, and then just a lot of poor quarterback play underneath that. And you could use the Big Ten as an example. I mean, right now, Ohio State, of course, with CJ Stroud, an amazing quarterback. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but the other Big Ten team in your state, they have a really good quarterback in Aiden O'Connell. And then, Michigan State and Michigan, I think they both have very good quarterbacks. But look at the rest of the league past them. The quarterback spot, if it's not the number one concern of the other literally 10 teams in the Big Ten, it's near the top. It's just crazy what we're seeing right now out of that position.
Yeah, and that other team in the state, they have a kid coming in from Southwest Indiana that is just phenomenal. I think he's right up Jeff Brom's alley.
We'll see
for them, and it's just, that's something they haven't really had.
I tell you what gives me hope is that Jeff Brom is coaching him. I mean, certain staffs they're just really good. Wisconsin, developing running backs and offensive line. Like we've got enough proof that they're really good at that. And right now, Jeff Brom is getting into that category with quarterbacks and wide receivers. So I don't know. The surefire hit for a recruit, I'll never believe it until I see it. But Jeff Brom gives me more, confidence that that'll be the case.
Yes, we shall see. Big Ten next year, is it going to? How different will it look? Michigan rises up on the East this year. Ohio State's not going to sit back and just rest on their laurels. You've got Penn State, of course, Michigan State trying to make a run, Indiana trying to come back, Maryland and Rutgers making a bowl. As far as the East side of things goes, it's same old story, a different year with Michigan and Ohio State kind of fighting that battle. But this is the first year in several years where Ohio State's not the king.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's quite a bit different for the East right now. I mean, it's just been an assumed thing for a long time that it's Ohio State. Now, I would still give Ohio State the odds-on favorite to win the division as it stands right now. But Michigan has changed the narrative a little bit. So, right now, it sure seems like it's Ohio State, Michigan, and Michigan State going into next year as well. Michigan State's got to replace, obviously, a dynamic running back, but I expect them to get better defensively. So, and then they'll have a development out of Peyton Thorne, their quarterback, too. So I think Michigan State should be really good next year. Mel Tucker is all over the place in the transfer portal and building things back up. And I was just thinking the other day, I mean, typically when you look at these divisions, there's enough wins out there for one, elite team and two really, really good teams. But then that fourth team, there's a drop off. So somebody's got to lose the football games. This past year, it was Penn State. So that to me is going to be the heck of the story in the Big Ten East is, can Penn State work themselves up into the second or third, slot in the Big Ten East this year? That's a big year for Franklin.
And then, of course, the Big Ten West, always the question we never seem to know. I mean, a lot of times it's Wisconsin, Iowa, generally. But no one is just jumping out over there right now. And especially now, that may change forever now that the portal and the transfers, it's like it's a nonstop hamster wheel right up until the season starts.
Since you brought up the Big Ten West, Jim, I don't know if you saw that tweet by Pick Six Previews. Over the last 5 years in bowl games, do you know who's the number one highest winning percentage division? And it's not even close. That's right. It is your Big Ten West. They went 3-1 in the bowls this year, with the only loss being the last-second loss by Iowa versus Kentucky. Just wanted to throw that out there because I know you're a big Big Ten West fan.
Isn't that because they play in all the middle-level bowls, though, because they're never in the championship game or anything like that?
The bowls are matched up evenly. So you have – I don't know if you've ever noticed this before, but I can explain it to you real quick. If you got an 8-4 team, typically they're actually similar 8-4 team, just so you know. So it really
exactly. I am glad to have that bit of information. Hey, we got to take a quick break. Back with more great little bits of information from Jeffrey the Greek with Eyes on Big Pod right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration.
Snuck that in there
when that Big Ten West slander hit, I was like, that's not going to sit well.
That's just untrue. Can we talk a little bit more about the Bulls just because
we can do whatever you want?
We don't have any live football to talk about for the rest
Unless you want to talk about the SEC Championship Part 2.
Well, I mean, I would say if we talk a little bit more about the Bulls, and then it just kind of leads into, because I would like to talk about how the middle of the SEC, and the middle to the bottom of the SEC is vastly overrated. I would love to talk about that.
Yeah.
It exactly was. They have the 2 top teams, but that's it.
It's the same thing every year. I mean, it's just people aren't. They're not yet paying attention to it.
Whoever cheats the most.
Perception.
Oregon's getting ready to blow their stadium up.
What? Really?
Oregon's getting ready to blow part of their stadium up.
I feel like I saw that somewhere too. Yeah.
No shit. Part of the zoo.
You can watch it. You can click there to watch. You can click here to watch live.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's crazy. So my 3-year-old said like a week ago, my tummy hurts, and we never knew what the hell went wrong. Took my kindergartner to school yesterday. He puked all over the place. Had to bring him home.
Oh my gosh.
My wife flew down to Florida yesterday as well. Got down to Florida, had a couple drinks. She threw up at 4:00 in the morning. So I'm just sitting here waiting. Like, is it? I'm on borrowed time. Right? Like I feel great right now, but I just feel like there's just impending doom coming.
Ready to puke live on the air.
Yeah. By the way, did you see that video of that kid puking live on air? I'll send it to you on Twitter.
No.
I'm surprised I haven't done that.
I really am.
I'm
too,
not kidding.
as much as you've had stomach issues before.
Oh man, I had that ulcer deal going on, and it would just come out of nowhere.
He finished a post-game show one time and then projectile vomited outside. Isn't that what happened at Southern Stone?
Yeah.
Dude,
I had to run.
I had to run out the door. Gamer, man. You hung in there as long as you had to.
I had to run out the door.
Wow.
Well, actually, it was already. I was just holding it in.
You had to run out the door, and then you nickelbacked all over the back door.
Exactly. Nickelbacked all over the place.
Oh man. People are giving me flack on Twitter too, by the way. It's not just on the comments. It's on
nice.
Twitter.
I mean, it's just an awful take.
It's great.
Well,
all right.
You deserve
there
it.
We go.
That's the worst I've ever heard.
Anything for the mentions.
If we're not on the station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
This segment is brought to you by Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. On this Friday, I was looking online. Oregon State is about to, literally about to implode part of their. Oh, they already did. I missed it.
So it's Oregon State.
Yeah, Oregon State. It looks like they imploded half of the stadium. Just a little bit ago. Literally, just a little bit ago.
It's a physical representation of how the Pac-12 performed in the Bowls. Because boy, did they blow up as well.
Speaking of which, how about the talk of Big 10, Pac-12, Big 12 going to an 8-game conference schedule in order to in turn play a round robin of sorts with the Pac-12.
Yeah.
You know who that serves? The Pac-12. The Big Ten does not need the Pac-12. No. The Big Ten's already successful. The Big Ten already has success. The team that the league that's everybody forgets about, the Pac-12. So this benefits the Pac-12, which that's okay. I'm not against it. It would be cool to see, some of these crossover games.
Yeah, doesn't make sense to me. Something that we talked about on, I think it was the latest Eyes on Big podcast, was the fact that the SEC, they get so many teams into the postseason because, number one, they have so many teams in their division to start with, but they not only play an 8-game SEC schedule, a lot of the lesser, lower teams don't match up to another Power 5 team in September, and of course their one game in November. they're not playing another Power 5 team. They're playing a Group of 5 team or less. A lot of times it's an FCS team. That allows a lot of SEC teams to get into bowls at with a 6-6 record. Rutgers would have probably been in a bowl at 6-6 to play a evenly matched opponent, not Wake Forest. Illinois would have gotten into a bowl at 6-6 to play an evenly matched team, So if the Big Ten's going to do this, it's all talk right now, but if the Big Ten's going to do this, it's really kind of stupid to me, because if you're going to go down 8-8 conference games, I understand, the thought process behind that, but to then fill it up with another Power 5 team, I think it's counterproductive. The SEC has another built-in advantage with how the schedule is set up. We're going to adjust ours, but just basically make it the same thing. It's stupid.
Yeah, it does the Big Ten no good whatsoever. Part of the reason the SEC does it is to have a fourth non-conference game, which is a money game, a win game.
Right.
So they're guaranteed. They're 2/3 of the way. Every team in the SEC should be 2/3 of bowl eligible every single year, because they can schedule 4 money games.
Yep.
Big Ten doesn't have that.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama doesn't run and hide from anybody for their non-conference, so I give them credit. Florida, they're always going to play Florida State, but Florida State's been so god-awful. Same with Georgia and Georgia Tech, so South Carolina gets Clemson, so they're not running from anybody. But for the most part, if you look at the rest of the teams in the SEC, yeah, they're playing, Fordham and teams like that, because they want that automatic W. Now, with that being said, it sure didn't seem to help the SEC all that much in these bowl games. I mean, they started out 0-4 in bowls. I think at one point they were 1-5 in bowls. And nobody's going to argue very successfully against the top of the SEC, which essentially is Alabama and whoever the team of the moment is. For the last 3 or 4 years, it's obviously been Georgia. Before that, it was LSU. Nick Saban's team, and the next team up are excellent. But teams 3 through 14, can we just get away with this whole thing about the SEC gauntlet? The SEC is so tough. Playing that SEC schedule. I'm not saying these teams are crap. We, as college football fans, I think we tend too much to think that there's only 2 groups, elite teams and crap teams. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying teams 3 through 14, 16 or whatever it is in the SEC, they're very similar to what they are in the Big Ten. And I would even say once you get into the middle there, the Big Ten's middle is much better than the SEC. It's time that people start waking up to that and actually paying attention to it.
I agree. And because, well, I'm not going to get into all that Alabama stuff. I mean, the SEC stuff. But, hey, how about this? How about former EMU star and Super Bowl champ Charlie Batch? I think he owns or is part of a company called Game Above Capital, a firm he works with.
Yep.
He's going to pay Caleb Williams $1 million. $1 million to come play 1 year at Eastern Michigan University.
Yeah.
Why would you not?
Caleb, I mean, I just saw that yesterday too. Crazy. The Williams family, I mean, I don't know them personally, but from what I hear, they're all, the Caleb Williams family is all about Caleb Williams. Okay. So to think that he wouldn't actually look at that is probably short-sighted. I think he's going to look at staying at Oklahoma. I think he's going to look at going to USC and following Lincoln Riley. I believe his girlfriend goes to North Carolina. So that one's been rumored to be out there. He was rumored to UCLA for quite some time. And now you've got this.
Dude, got $1 million. You can afford to move the girlfriend out to Southern California, bro.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, about $600K after taxes to go play for a year.
But see, that's another thing that talked about going to LA now, being an LA guy, where this has not mattered before, but now being out in the LA market as a USC quarterback, and now that if it's in vogue and Lincoln Riley is there and they're successful, how beneficial can being the quarterback at USC be, man?
I mean, we'll see. I watched a lot of USC. I checked out a lot of USC games this year, and I wait for them to pan up into the crowd. There's nobody there. I mean, USC fans are the epitome of bandwagon front-runner fans. So I do think they'll get they'll get a shot in the arm with their new shiny coach being out there. But they better win pretty quick, because I think those California fans, they just forget about USC in 5 minutes if they're not doing really, we it's not just a win. It's got to be flashy. We got to have Snoop Dogg's and Will Ferrell on the sidelines. It's got to be that type of show for California people to dig in. So I understand what you're saying. It's a gigantic population base, but in my opinion, there's more rabid Michigan State fans that follow the program than there are USC fans, as an example.
Yes, they have so much to follow. It's such a large area and the success is so fleeting that they never seem to lock on, whether it's UCLA basketball, the LA Rams, or the Lakers, the Dodgers, whomever you're talking about.
Right.
But also a lot of money out there, baby.
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing more and more of it, of the NIL. I mean, I know we've talked about it on this show as well.
I haven't seen any of it. No one has offered me any NIL deals.
Yeah. We'll see. But anyways, more and more deals getting put out there. I still don't think we have really even gotten past the tip of the iceberg yet for what we're going to see.
Yeah, looking forward. Dustin Schuette's out playing golf at 10 a.m. this morning. I hope his driver breaks. I hope he's right in the middle and his driver breaks. He keeps bragging about getting to play golf.
I'd like to golf with DS. I bet he'd be a fun time out on the course.
Oh, I'm sure it'd be a blast. It'd be a blast.
And in honor of DS, I'm going to make chili. It's pretty cold here. It was -16 in Minnesota when I woke up today. So I'm going to make some chili, and I'm going to pair it with red wine. That is a pairing that people don't give enough credit to, but I'm not going to eat it with a cinnamon roll. If you ever want to get Dustin Schuette fired up, ask him about pairing up chili with a cinnamon roll.
Well, why would you do that?
It's an odd upper Midwest
thing.
Thing.
You can stop right there. It's odd.
Yeah. It's odd. It was I never did it in my house, but it was a school lunch, was chili and cinnamon roll day. And man, we went bananas when we knew we were going to get chili and a cinnamon roll.
Grilled cheese sandwich. Yeah.
Yeah. Grilled cheese and
pepper jack.
Grilled cheese and tomato soup is the cat's pajamas.
Well, yeah. But you can also do it with the chili. Now Texas chili does not have beans in it. Did you know that?
I prefer to. I will not. I don't need the beans in my soup or my chili. There will be no beans tonight.
I don't even have the. It's $1 million Powerball winning ticket was sold. I don't even have the discussion about noodles. That's not even a discussion I even have.
That sounds like California chili. That's what USC fans.
It's a Southern thing, man. It's a Southern thing.
Okay.
Yeah, those people down in the South, you can't trust them. You put noodles in chili, man, you can't trust them. I just made some chili about a week ago. Now, one of the things that I do with my chili is the one ingredient that I will put in that people would probably say, "Oh, mushrooms."
Oh yeah, absolutely. I got 2 packages of shiitake mushrooms waiting to get reduced down and put in. Love them.
Now, one other thing that I will do with it after it's made is I like to have chili in scrambled eggs.
Oh, absolutely. Put them over.
It is fantastic, baby.
Oh, yeah. And then I got 2 little boys, so we'll be putting them over I'm going to make hot dogs. They're going to have little chili dogs. They're going to go nuts.
Oh, of course.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, that's nuts. There's so many things you can do with it. So many. But yeah, it's the chili. As a matter of fact, it's sounding good right now.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait.
We still got 6 minutes before we can hit that, though. The national championship coming up on Monday night, the SEC title, a rematch between Georgia, who lost to Alabama. You know, everybody thought it's hard to beat a team twice. It's hard to beat a team 3 times. Well, if they're good, it's just hard to beat a damn team, period. So I think both of these teams are obviously very, very good. I don't know that the first matchup had a lot to do with this game, but obviously Alabama found the success they needed.
Yeah. Can we talk about chili more? I think I'd rather talk about chili than
absolutely. It's a lot more appetizing.
Very well played, Jim. Yeah, I mean, basically, you know, Georgia was the best team as far as, you know, aesthetics, statistically all year long until Kirby went up against Little Nicky. And Little Nicky has taken Kirby back behind the woodshed and spanked that Heine 4 times now. And that's the whole story to the game. You know, John Mechie being out for Alabama. He played most of the game in the SEC championship. So does that change up enough where they basically just have essentially one real deep wide receiver threat? Not that they don't have talent, you know, at the wide receiver spot behind those 2 guys, but so is that enough? You know, did Georgia just flat out get caught flat-footed, and will they come out and play loose and just kind of beat Alabama down? It's actually, the line's gone up. It's gone more towards Georgia. So a lot of people think that way. Or is Saban just going to do what Saban does and just take another one of his former proteges and beat him up? I mean, that's the whole story to the game.
Alabama. Let's say Alabama wins. What in the hell are we going to do with college football?
Just wait till Nick Saban retires. I mean, I'm serious. It's just everybody in college football, you know, Georgia, the number 2 SEC team, whoever it is, Ohio State, Michigan, you know, everybody. Clemson, you know, everybody's got the same problem, which is an Alabama problem. He's the greatest coach of all time. I mean, what are you going to do?
It's not just
the greatest coach of all time. It's happening. It's happening in our lives that we can't do anything about.
I agree with you, and I agree with that. But it's not just coaching that is winning at Alabama. Let's be honest.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's coaching.
Baloney.
Coaching and recruiting. I mean, recruiting is a part of coaching. So obviously,
I get that, but the SEC recruiting in the SEC is different than recruiting in anywhere else in the world.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, everybody in the SEC, other than Vanderbilt, and they're trying to change it too, by the way. Everybody in the SEC puts recruiting number 1, and every program puts recruiting at the top. Don't get me wrong, but the chasm between recruiting and developing is vast in the SEC, except for Alabama. Nick Saban has such clout within the college football world and his players. Like, it makes a difference. Like, when a 5-star guy comes to Alabama and is told, you're going to do it like this because this is how we do it, he has no choice to listen because he has seen what Nick Saban has done for the past decade. Most other coaches don't have that. You know, if you can't make it at Alabama, you're taking a step down. We already know that is going to happen. That's not true anywhere else. And I hate to say that to Ohio State fans and a couple other fan bases, but you have to admit it's true right now. So he is a singular entity of which we have never seen, unless you're talking UCLA basketball back in the 70s or Iowa.
What was going on behind the scenes at UCLA basketball back in the 70s?
If you think you're going to get me to argue against you with that, you're not. I mean, I know stuff like that.
That's my point, though. Both those are 2 great examples. UCLA, that run, and this run. Now, I think that they're both have great coaches and 2 of the greatest coaches of their sports. I'm not saying other than that. And they had some of the greatest players in their sports. But how they got some of those players is what I am definitely talking about. and it is perpetuating a continued run by these same programs.
Yep. Yeah, you're not going to get any argument from me. I mean, they already have advantages built in that you're talking about right now that I completely agree with. It's just that to have sustained elite success, it still takes the talent and the coaching on top of it. Look at all of this, the staff guys that Saban has lost over the past 12 years, and it's still Alabama at the top every single year. He's the GOAT. He's not only the GOAT of college football coaches. I mean, this is a different segment, but he might be the GOAT of coaches of all time. I mean, he has been that amazing.
Definitely up there, man. Definitely up there. It has been another absolutely we hadn't gotten to do this for a couple of weeks, so fun to get back. And next week we'll have a new national championship. How's your weekend looking?
Well, I hope not puking would be the way I would put it. I guess the listeners didn't hear the first part of that. Everybody in my house has got the flu except for me, so I'm hoping I stay strong.
Always a good start, man. Well, I hope so too, man. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. Thanks a lot to Zach Osterman. Thanks a lot to Alec Lasley. And, of course, to John, the producer. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you all, we don't have a reason to be here. Go out and have yourselves a great weekend. And Indiana takes on Minnesota on Sunday. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Nice.